Hi there, FATHERFISH here. Do you realize you are keeping your fish in prison? What does that mean? Well, what is a prison? A prison is a concrete block with bars. What does a prison separate you from? Nature. Separates you from the air, not all air, but the free, open air, the sun, not all sun, but out in the sun, the earth, the rivers, creeks, streams, the trees, the animals. Separates you from nature. What are you doing with your fish? What are you doing with your fish? You've got them in little glass boxes, don't you? With probably a lot of plastic in that box. Plastic. Is that natural? Is that what fish love? They love swimming around plastic and tasting it, chewing on it. Plastic plants, plastic filters, plastic substrate. That's prison. That's prison. You've got your fish in prison. And I'm here to tell you, you need to set them free. Because what you're doing ain't right. It just ain't right. What you're doing is, you wouldn't do it to your child. You wouldn't do it to your child. You might do it to an animal, another kind of animal. You wouldn't do it to a dog. You wouldn't keep a dog caged up permanently, never to get out. I've seen it. It ain't nice. It ain't nice at all. That's what you're doing to your fish. You got them locked up in a little glass box with a bunch of stuff in there that's totally foreign to their environment, to what they need, to what is in any way normal for them. So what do you do about this? Well, you turn them loose into the wild. That's what you do. That's what you do. You turn your fish loose into the wild. Now, am I suggesting that you take your fish out and throw them in a ditch or a pond or a creek or a stream or a bay or a lake? No, certainly not. In fact, absolutely not. For one thing, it'll kill them. Something bigger and stronger will grab them and they'll be gone in an instant. No. What you need to do is learn. You need to learn how to do what? You need to learn how to turn your aquarium into a wild slice of nature. So what does that mean? How do you do that? Well, first of all, look at what you got. Look at your tank. What do you have in there? Got a bunch of gravel on the bottom, some plastic plants. Okay, let's start here. Two things. Rip the plastic plants out and throw them away, give them away, get rid of them. They break down and deteriorate. They're petrochemical products. They're not in any way healthy for your fish. Not in any way at all. They may look pretty. I can think of a lot of things that look pretty that are not very good for you, and that's one of them. They're certainly not good for fish. Get rid of the plastic plants. And don't give me any excuses about, well, but my fish rip off all the plants. Every time I put plants in there, they rip them up. Well, whose fault is that? It's yours. It's your fault. Because you're the one who doesn't even have a clue about how to put a plant in the tank in a way that'll make it possible for the fish to live with it instead of ripping it out. Honestly, God, people. Let's do this. You're going to take all the plastic out. And what do you got in there? Gravel? Let me ask you a question. How long has this been set up? How long has it been this way? If it's been more than 6 months, then don't break it down. Don't take the gravel out. Just leave it in there and go to the full supply store and buy a bag of pull filter sand. Or if you want something colorful like black, go to Tractor Supply and get a bag, a 40-pound bag of blasting sand. Both of them are pretty clean. You can dump them right in the tank, and that's what I want you to do. I want you to dump them in that tank right on top of that gravel. 2 inches. That's a 50-pound bag and a 55-gallon tank. 1 pound per gallon, roughly. You want to get 2 inches. If you got 1 inch of gravel, I want you to have 3 inches in there when you're through. 3-inch absolute minimum. Why do we want to do this? Because, my friends, we want to give our fish a natural environment to live in. Do they live anywhere in the world on top of gravel or rocks? No. In point of fact, they either live over mud or sand. If they're little rocks or pebbles, dig down 2 or 3 inches, and what do you find? Sand, sand. Okay. So now we've got your gravel covered over with 2 inches of sand. Let me back up a minute. For those of you who haven't set your tank up yet or who are about to, I'm going to ask you to do something that will blow your mind. I'm going to ask you to go out and collect a bucket full of dirt. The best dirt you can find. If it means buying a bag of potting soil, that's fine. Bucket full of dirt. Turn it into mud, like mud pie mud, not like soup, like mud pie mud. Dump it in the tank, 1 inch deep. No more. 1 inch. No more dirt than 1 inch. 1 inch of dirt. Remember that. That's vital. It's key. 1 inch of dirt. On top of that, put 2 inches of sand. Now you do this before you put water in the tank. 1 inch of mud, 2 inches of sand. Now, cover that sand. Put a plastic bag over it. Put a plate on it, a bowl, anything. So when you put water in, you're not going to stir it all up. Do not stir it up when you put water in. Don't do it. It'll make a mess, and you won't be happy with it, and you'll wind up breaking it down. Cover the sand. Put the water in. Fill it up. Now, I want you to get a lot of plants. A lot of plants. Not 1 or 2. Not 3 or 4. If you have a 20-gallon tank, I want you to get 20 bunches of plants. 1 bunch for every gallon. It's a good basic rule. You can use more and probably should, but that's an absolute minimum. 1 plant per gallon. In a 55-gallon tank, 50 plants. Now, that's going to include a big plant like an Amazon sword and a little plant like a Cuba or a hair grass or something that's really rather small. 1 plant per gallon. Plant them. put them in. Now, when you put them in, don't go all the way down to the dirt. Don't do that. Go 1 inch into that sand. That's it. That's it. 1 inch. The roots will find the nutrition. Don't force them down in there. Tank's too young. Dirt's too volatile. It'll burn up the roots. Give it time. It's going to take a little time for this to settle out. But here's what you've got now. If you want to put a little sponge filter in there, that's just fine. Perfect. Do it. If you want to have a hang on the back, go ahead and do it. If you want to have a canister, I would not do that. It's going to give you too much flow. Unless you're going to be putting big fish in there, it'll be too much flow. It'll keep things stirred up. You won't be happy with it. The best kind of filter in this sort of tank is a sponge filter. It's simple, it's easy, it's inexpensive. It'll last forever. Forever. It'll last as long as the tank. Now what do? By now you're into day 2. You put fish in it. Okay, now here's the real secret to this whole system. We're going to turn this into a food web. A food web. What does that mean? That means we're going to bring the entire tank to life. How do we do that? Well, this is where it's going to take some ingenuity and some effort on your part, because you're going to need to come up with some living humus. Living humus. What is living humus? You ever been to a creek and seen the leaves washing down it, maybe piling up in a corner? Well, relatively recent research indicates that creek, stream, river, its health is completely dependent upon the leaves that fall into it, that deteriorate, and that provide nutrition for the entire scope of animal life in that body of water. So, what do I want you to do? I want you to go out and get some leaves. Get some leaves. In a 55-gallon tank, get about a quart of leaves, kind of pressed down tight, quart of leaves. You can scale it down from there. Preferably leaves from a body of water, leaves that have begun to deteriorate. Now, why is that? Because they will have attached to them mycelium, fungus, and bacteria, and various other microfauna, tiny little animals that are eating it, breaking it down. Bring all that in and put it in the tank. Where do you put it? Put it wherever you want. Put it back in a corner, put it in the front. Doesn't matter where you put it. Just put it in there. Now, if you are intimidated about doing this, let me make a suggestion. Create what we call a resurrection jar. Get a container, a glass container, something you can see in. Take it out to the creek, fill it with water, get a scoop of mud and throw it in. Grab some leaves, maybe plants, throw them in. Take it home and put it on the windowsill and leave it alone. For 30 days, leave it alone. And you will see every day, there will be a new form of life that you will see growing up in that jar. That's what we want happening in your aquarium. That's precisely what we want happening in your aquarium. Okay, so there's one more issue, and the issue is the fish. Obviously, this works very well for very small fish because they can forage around and find food, and that's really the whole idea. But what if you want big fish? What if you want Jack Dempsey's that get 6-8 inches long, or African cichlids that get about the same size? What if you want bigger fish like that? Do the same thing. Do exactly the same thing. And here's what will happen. Those bigger fish are going to forage in those leaves. But even more importantly, they're going to be so at home and so comfortable, they're going to spawn. And what happens then? Their babies begin feeding in all of that microfauna, in all of those leaves. At that point, you're going to want to add more to get it deeper and thicker so that they'll have plenty of food. So there's the whole idea. You can free your fish from the prison they're in by giving them a natural wild home to live in. And you really can do it. You really can. It's not complicated. It's not difficult. It may be intimidating, but get over yourself. This isn't about you. This is about your fish. It's about your aquarium. So, FATHERFISH here. I'm going to put one together. I'm going to do it on video so you can see how it's done. And I'll do that very soon, I promise. Scouts up. Bless you all. Nice to be with you. Fun to be here. Catch me live 4 times a week. I'm all over the place. Come visit. Bye for now. Bye-bye.